Hello everybody, thanks for tuning into the video here. Today I'm going to be opening a LINX140T model and I'm going to be installing it in my kitchen downstairs. So what you're going to need to install the system is something to open up with and something to cut your tubing. You're going to need a screwdriver to open up the Lynx system itself. Got a crescent wrench here, vice grips that you may need depending on your setup. I don't believe I'm going to need it, but I've got it here handy. I've also got a razor blade, and I've got a drill because I had to install a sink faucet here. I've got my threading tape. I also got a 3.2 gallon storage tank here. So now I'm going to open up the LINX140T system and see what we've got in it. Inside I've got a box here, and it looks like it's got all of my necessary components. And I've got the LINX140T system itself. And let's take a look at what we got with it. So we've got the owner's manual here for my LINX140T system, performance data sheet, and a service and troubleshoot quick guide. I've also got some tubing. I've got the power supply to the unit, and I've got a wrench that looks like to open up the unit. And looks like I've got the filters in here. Yep, I got my carbon filter and my sediment filter. The next step in installing your LINX140T system is we're going to take it apart the front and we're going to put in our filters. So I've already gone ahead and I've taken two screws out. There's two in the front, one here and one here. So I used my Phillips screwdriver, and now I'm going to take the face off. And there's two spots here. There's the sediment and the carbon filter system right here. So let's find them in our box. And we're going to want to place the carbon one first, as that's the one in the back. Here's our carbon filter. And it's got an O-ring at the top that we're going to want to keep at the top. So I've gone ahead and I've removed all the wrapping. I'm going to place it into the holder here. And you're also going to want to find the O-ring to apply here, right onto the filter. So it came with two O-rings here for me. I put it right around the housing. There we go. And then I've also got my wrench here that I'm going to use to tighten it with. We really just want to get it hand tight. So I'm just going to use the wrench here to just make sure that it's extra tightened. And you may just have to move it up a little bit past the wires. Here we go, we're just going to give it one nice turn, and that should be good. I take out our sediment filter, and unwrap that as well. Now this one doesn't have an O-ring on top, so you don't have to worry about putting it top up or down. We do, however, want to put the ring around the top of the housing. Don't want to forget this, because if you forget this, it's going to leak. Same thing, I'm going to hand tighten it in, and I'm just going to finish it up with the wrench that was supplied with the system. And I didn't have to turn that one much. There we go, we've got our carbon filter and our sediment filter in. Alright, after you're done installing your sediment and your carbon filters in the front, we're going to go ahead and put the two Lynx cartridges in the system, which is going to do the main work of removing the nasties in our water. So what you're going to do, you've got the front and the back here, and you're going to want to make sure that when you put them back in that you do have it set to be front and back, otherwise the system will not start, because there are some magnets here that will tell the system that these are put in properly. So we've got our front and our back, and I turned them clockwise to remove them. And then inside here we've got the housing for the 2 Lynx filters, and I'm going to use some pliers, and I'm going to use the handle of the pliers to crank them out. And if you need a little additional leverage, and I didn't need it here, but you can put a screwdriver through here to give it a little bit extra leverage. And they come right up. And these are interchangeable on either side. So now we're going to put our Lynx filters in. And I'm going to take the lid, and I'm going to slide it in here, and then I'm going to pull it so it's centered. And then I'm going to drop it right in. And then I'm just going to hand tighten it down here. I'm going to make sure that it gets lined up. And I'll show you what I mean. See, it's vertical here. And I'll do the same thing for the second filter. You'll notice there's a little moisture in there. It stays moisture in the bag. It stays wet in the bag when it comes. Just going to keep on turning it until it goes vertical. And we've got it vertical. We got it perfectly lined up right here in the system. Now I'm going to put on my 2 lids. I've got the back lid here. Got that lined up as well. Remember to be mindful for the magnets, otherwise the system will not start. There we go. Now that we've got all the filters in the system, we're going to leave the front off here so that we can do the preconditioning of the filters. And let's take a look at the back of the system here. On the back we have the power supply, and then we have our feed, drain, tank, and product. It's all labeled really nicely. So I've already gone ahead and I've set up my system underneath my sink here for the system. So I'm going to go ahead and get it all set up now, and then we'll turn back on the feed here. Now that we've got the Lynx system in place, we're going to precondition the cartridges by holding down, depressing both buttons here for 5 seconds, and then you'll see the lights flash. After we do that, it's going to need to sit there for about 90 minutes, and we'll catch up back with you. Here's button on the left hand side, button on the right hand side. Just go ahead and press it down for 5 seconds. And there it goes. We're now back with our LINX140T system after we allowed it 90 minutes of preconditioning the Lynx filtration. I've checked in the manual. The manual says as long as your parts per million is under 400 in your local area, you don't need to make any adjustments to your Lynx system. Here in Minnesota we're at 140, so we're well under that mark, and so I didn't make any adjustments. I've disconnected my plumbing for the drainage of the LINX140T system so that I can test the water savings and water recovery of the system versus a RO system, which I previously owned, where the waste is a 2-to-1 ratio. The Lynx system is going to be far superior in that area, and I'd like to just get some accurate data for that. So we're getting ready to experiment how much water savings and recovery we're going to save by using a LINX140T system compared to a RO system. And so here it's very important to get the temperature of the water that's coming into the house, because that will reflect how much water waste on the RO system. And I've gone ahead and I've run my water here. I'm in southeast Minnesota, and I'm currently getting 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's in March, the early March. Okay, so now we're back after allowing the system, the LINX140T system, to sit overnight, and we have the tank fully charged, full, and the system is completely charged and ready to go. Now, in order to mimic daily usage of water consumption, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill up one of these mason jars, which is 1 quart, and then I'm going to allow the system to fill up the tank again, and then I will go ahead and fill up the glass, and we'll do that until the system needs to recharge itself. And then at that time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step away, allow the system completely recharge, and it'll have dispensed its water in here. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and disconnected my drain, and it's connected here, sitting in the bucket that I've got, a 5-gallon bucket, and we'll be able to measure the complete water waste here and get an accurate account of how much water savings and recovery that we're getting by using the LINX140 LINX140T system compared to a reverse osmosis system. Now you can also see that I've got my tank down in here, and I'm just going to keep this door closed, that way I can maneuver around in the kitchen. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here by filling these up, and it's going to take a little bit of time, so we're just going to fast forward through this part really quickly, but I've got my clock here showing that we're continuously running. So as I'm filling up here, we're going to see the system's lights are now on, and it's filling up the tank again. And as soon as it's done, I'll go ahead and start filling up another jar. So now we've got one quart out. A few more seconds here, and then we'll see the lights finish filling up the tank. And I'll go ahead and do the next one. Now at this point, right now I'm not seeing any water being drained into the bucket right now, because the system's just pulling all the water through, getting all the minerals and all of the nasties out, putting it into the tank. And there we go. Now we've got the lights off, so I'm going to go ahead and fill up again. So we've done one quart, now we're going to be doing our second. The light's back on as it's filling up the tank again. Alright, and I've now filled up my second quart here. There we go. Alright, so now you can see that the light switched over, so the system is now going to be recharging itself here. It's going to be regenerating, and now instead of pushing water into the tank, it's going to be coming out the drain into our bucket here. And I've got, like I said, I've got our drain coming in here. I've got it being held down by vice grips, that way it doesn't get launched out of the bucket. But you'll see here shortly that we're going to get some water coming out from here. It's going to go into the bucket, and then we're going to calculate the water waste once it's fully been recharged. It'll take about 30 minutes. So we can see that the water's coming out here. I'm going to step away for a little while, and we'll see how much total water wastage we get once the system's been fully recharged. We filled up about 15 quarts, somewhere between 15 and 16, so almost 4 gallons of water before the system had to recharge itself. So that's awesome. So I'm going to step away. We'll come back. I've got a filter or a funnel here that we're going to be able to measure the water waste, and we'll show that once we get back. So we'll see you in a little while. So I got back after 30 minutes away, and unfortunately the camera had turned off, so I wanted to do this concurrently, but I'm going to just have to finish the video up here with it turned off. I've left everything the way it was. I've now got some water here in my bucket. I've got my funnel, and I've got my quart here. I'm going to measure the amount of water waste here to see how much the LINX140T system recovery and savings of water for the system compared to a reverse osmosis or another type of filtration system like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start measuring to see how much water waste there was, and we'll compare it to our nearly almost 4 gallons of great tasting water that the Lynx system produced for us. It made us 15 to 16 quarts, somewhere in between that. So I'm going to just test here now to see. You can also see that I've got my drain, pulling that out of the bucket. Here is the bucket full of water. I've also put a little ball in here so you can kind of see how much water was in there. So now I'm just going to measure out and see how much we got here. So hopefully I don't spill any. And this is some smelly water here, so I'm so happy that I got this system. It's taking all this out of the water for me. The water tasted great. So there's 1 quart. I did lose just a little bit of water on a couple of my pours, and it looks like it would have came right about to 6 quarts here. I'll show you. Ball's floating a little bit, so it was right around 6 quarts of wasted water here. So you can see here by using a LINX140 system, 140T, we're saving a lot of water. Versus that of a reverse osmosis system, which is a 2-to-1 ratio of waste. So we got about 16 quarts of good water here, and we wasted 6 quarts. That's a really good amount, and really enjoyed the tasting of the water as well. So now we're upstairs where I've had an iSpring 6-stage reverse osmosis system installed, model RCC7AK. And I've had it up here for about a month or so now, and I'm going to basically run the same test that I ran downstairs on the LINX140T system to kind of get a comparison of how much water waste is going on up here with the reverse osmosis system compared to the other system that I installed downstairs. So I've got my 1 quart mason jar here, and I'm going to fill it up 1 quart at a time until I start seeing the flow out. I've got my drain set right here. Normally it's set in underneath my sink to drain out. Now I've got it set to drain right out into this bucket. We're basically going to measure just like we did downstairs. At the end of the video, I will go ahead and fill up these mason jars, and we'll see how much water waste compared to how much water we poured. So I'm going to go ahead and start here with 1 quart per time to see how much it starts flowing out. There, I've filled up 1 quart now. I'm waiting for it to see if it's going to start draining out. I don't have anything yet. So we're at 2 quarts now. Still draining. So it's working its way through the system right now. We're at 1 gallon of water now. And we are now draining out into the bucket. So we're just going to let this continue to flow, and we'll see how much water waste we get after we come back here. So we are now done with the water being drained out of our iSpring 6 stages reverse osmosis machine, and as you can see, we've nearly filled up 2 of these buckets. These are 5-gallon buckets. The first one here is almost all the way to the top, as is the second. So we're right around 9 gallons at least of wasted water per the 1 gallon that we got out, because we did 4 1-quart mason jars here. And so that's 9-to-1 waste ratio, and that's pretty amazing. I think I'm gonna I'm gonna get rid of this iSpring and get another second of the LINX140T model, or another model like that. As we saw, there was only 6 quarts wasted there, comparable to 4 gallons of water used. So this is just pretty eye-opening to me, and definitely recommend avoiding the iSpring for that reason, because of this wasted water. We're now back downstairs after completing our experiment on both the LINX140T system and the iSpring 6-stage reverse osmosis system. The Lynx system saw about 71% recovery as opposed to the iSpring's 10. The Lynx system had 6 quarts of wasted water to 15 quarts good, whereas the iSpring, when we tested, we got 9 gallons wasted to just 1 gallon received. So I'm definitely a happy customer with the Lynx system here.